Hello viewers, here is a Lakewood warm operator fan. This is one of the later models that they produced. This probably came from the last couple of years of Lakewood's operation in the mid-2000s. It has the 5-wing brace blade, pretty bland badge, and multiple cost-cutting features here on the back. You can see that the switch and the cord are positioned within like an inch of the motor to use as little wire as possible. And this does have the infamous boombox cord, although it is not a fuse plug. And it does also have the PSC motor, which according to the information on the fan is rated for 1.2 amps. I'm not sure if the information is visible on the motor itself. It is to a degree. It says Lakewood model 2027 something. I can't quite see what the rest of it says. Let me see if I can move the cord out of the way. No, I can't reach in here. So we can't read all the information on the motor. Unfortunately, the power draw is among the pieces of information that I cannot see. It says 1 point something amps. I really can't see it. These fans, oh boy, it's like coming apart. Not good. These fans receive a lot of commentary among collectors, and I think it's kind of uncalled for. Yes, this is much cheaper than the ones they made back earlier than this, and I think they started in the 90s, maybe somewhere around there. Much cheaper than those, but this is not a piece of junk. It's lightweight, it's flimsy, it would probably break if it fell, etc. But it moves a pretty good amount of air. It's at a reasonable noise level, and there's just really nothing all that wrong with it for the price point that it's sold at. A lot of people seem to despise the PSC motors that were used in the 2000s, both on the Lakewood side of things and the Lasco side of things, and I really don't agree with that commentary whatsoever. Especially in the earlier days, I mean, aside from the recalls and stuff like that, the PSC motors had plenty of power, and they were reliable enough to be reasonable. And I think in a situation like with a fan, it makes a lot more sense to use a PSC motor, because you can cut the power draw in half or less and still get the same amount of airflow. So why not use the PSC motor? To me, it just makes sense. Although a lot of people don't seem to agree with that. Anyways, and I'm not really sure why they switched over to the PSC motors. A lot of people say it was to cut costs, but I find it hard to believe that a PSC motor would have been cheaper than the sheeted pull motors, unless I mean, I don't know what kind of deals Macmillan was giving Lakewood. I imagine it was a pretty decent price due to the high purchase volume. Nowadays, those Macmillan motors are in the triple digits, so obviously they couldn't use them today, but I'm sure they were a lot less back then. Well, this unit is rated for, where's the information? Here it is. It is rated for 1.2 amps, down from 2.7 of the old ones, and the model number is 007. Very creative, Lakewood. Very creative. Ooh, made in China. Actually, it doesn't say made in China. It says Lakewood, America. But I don't think that means made in America. In fact, unless the sticker just fell off because it too is so cheap, it doesn't seem to say made in China anywhere on here. Although it doesn't say made in USA either, so it probably was made in China. The cord is at least reasonably long. In fact, I think it's got an extra foot or two compared to most fan cords. The tilt adjustment, of course, is horrible, but it's not quite as bad as that Air Queen is. That's definitely the worst tilt adjustment I've ever seen. Okay, so we're going to test at 119 the volts. Go over to the amps and we'll start it up on the low. On the low, it draws 0.65 amps, 78 watts, with a power factor of 0.99. The balance appears to be pretty satisfactory at this speed. It feels ever so slightly out, but definitely within a reasonable margin of error. And the airflow is, I was surprised. It's surprisingly good. It's a very steady stream of a lot of air. It seems like this is very aerodynamically correct. The guards are pretty aerodynamic. They let the air pass through with ease and not a whole lot of noise. I'm impressed by the airflow. It's not as good as the old ones, but for this noise level it moves plenty of air and the air travels. It travels very well. 10 or so feet away from the fan, it doesn't really feel all that much less than if you're right in front of it. And the power draw is reasonable. I have no complaints with the low. The medium. That takes us up to 0.75 amps, 89 watts, with a power factor of 1. Definitely picked up in noise pretty good. Also picked up in airflow significantly. And it's starting to shake a little bit. You can feel the blade is out of balance. I don't think it's that out of balance, it's just because it's so lightweight it's really shaking around. The airflow is really impressive. I'm very pleasantly surprised. It's moving a very high volume of air. And it's not that loud. I would have expected it to be much, much louder than this. Okay, now we'll go to high. Right quick, and you can see how quickly it gets up to speed. I don't think is underpowered at all. That's drawing 0.95 amps, which is less than what it's rated for. 107 watts. The power factor is 0.95. And it does feel out of balance, but again, it's not crazy out of balance. It's just shaking around because the thing is so lightweight. It does have a very good variance in all three speeds. High is fast and loud, low is quiet and slow, and medium sits somewhere in the middle. And this just puts out a tremendous amount of air. This rivals the cheap 20-inch high velocity fans of today, if not exceeds. And the amount of air this is moving is really incredible. And it's not all that loud. See what the spin down is. I'm pretty sure this has pretty much like no hours on it. Not bad for a lightweight blade. Like the motors, these brace blades also seem to take a lot of grief from most collectors. And I understand and I agree that the concept is stupid in the sense that the blade is so thin and so flimsy that it needs to be braced in order to not lose all the pitch from the air resistance of operation. That is dumb. However, it works. The brace works, it fixes the problem, and if this brace blade is attached to a good motor and guards with reasonable aerodynamics, it moves some serious air at a pretty reasonable noise level. It's definitely a cheap product, and probably one of the last couple of years that Lakewood made these things. But I think this is still a perfectly good fan.